How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Terrific. You went on a special trip.
I did.
How long ago?
It was in July, so over the summer. It's been a while now.
Now, I know Brooke. We're connected in two ways. I work for the same company she does, so that was kind of cool. And we have a mutual friend, Josh Bostrom, who comes here. He's one of the youth, so we were able to have introductions through that. So that's pretty cool. All right, so you went to a country. Which country?
We went to China.
China. Who's been in China before?
I know what it's like.
We love China.
I can't hear you, Tina.
No, Mom. I've been to California.
No, yell, Tina.
I've been to the Great Wall of
California's halfway there.
I've been to Florida.
Shh.
Me too. Why did you go to China?
Good question.
Hey, you said no.
Casey?
When did you become a Christian?
As a kid, so I mean it was about elementary school, I would say. I couldn't say exactly what grade, but it
In
was when I
church
was-
or
Um,
at camp?
Well, my parents aren't Christians, but I had a lot of friends that were Christians, and there was one year where a friend brought me to summer camp with her, and that was kind of where I got the most exposure to Jesus, and that was like the night when I asked him into my heart and said a prayer, and from there it's just kind of been growing and learning more about him.
Wow. I don't know. Is that the Chinese flag right there?
Yes.
I have a map at home, so that does us no good here. But we'll be able to find China on a map later for you guys, so don't worry about it. I was going to have to point it out. I failed on that one. That was my fault. Hey, so where did you stay when you were in China?
Kunming. So that's like the southern part of China. Kunming.
Was it fun?
Yeah, it was.
What was the weather like?
It was kind of chilly at night, but it was pretty nice. So I liked it. Pretty humid too. It rained a lot.
So the next question he has on here are what are some of the ways you showed people God's love on the trip?
Well, we spent a lot of time with orphans, so they are not used to having like a mom and dad and like a close family that spends a lot of time with them. So we kind of formed our own little family, and we hung out with them, and we played lots of games with them, and we just, I don't know, we just kind of gave them hugs and just loved on them the whole time.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Pretty cool. All right. What are some of the ways you told people about Jesus on the trip?
Well, a lot of them were curious about what we believed, and they could see that we really, really cared about all the kids. And so there were a lot of people that would ask us, like, why did you come all the way to China? And so it kind of started from just them seeing how we act, and just seeing how we love the kids.
Was it? I'm just going to throw this in there. Was it challenging or different because of what they believed?
They didn't want to challenge anything that you believe. So for the most part, they just kind of would nod if they disagreed with something. But they were definitely really open-minded about like listening to whatever you had to say, because they were really curious about the foreigners and they wanted to know about your life at home.
Wait, can leaders ask questions?
Right now? Go ahead.
Okay, no. If
You said you don't have to.
You said they nod
Yeah,
if they
would.
disagree.
Well, I mean, they don't want to offend anybody at all. So if you ever looked funny, like they would never tell you anything wrong with, like, I mean, here, if you have a friend and there's something funny with their hair, you might tell them, like, your hair looks funny, right?
Yeah.
And it's not a big deal. If you did that there, oh no, because you could embarrass somebody and you could make them lose face, that's what they call it. And so you wanted to make sure that you didn't do that, that they weren't upset with anything that you did or anything that you said to them.
What are some of the popular foods in that country?
They have lots of rice. Lots of rice. Every single meal there was rice, and then every single meal there was always lots of vegetables with like oil on it, so they would steam it. There was a lot of cabbage and stuff like that. It was really, really easy to eat healthy there. Really, really easy.
I heard that about rice. I didn't think it was true. Rice
It's
with
absolutely
every
true. I
Every
got
meal.
super sick of it by the end of the trip.
I didn't know that was true. No. What was your favorite food when you were in there? because one of these pictures besides the girl in the hot dog costume, just weird. Shows a really popular, a really weird fruit that you had.
A weird fruit.
Yeah.
There's
Spiky bone?
Actually, it had spikes.
yeah, it
The
did.
dragon.
It was called lychee.
All lychee stuff.
Yeah,
Yum.
I miss it so much.
Oh,
They
that's
have 'em
cool.
here.
That's one of the foods on a plate that's not like Leanne Chin's there, so
No,
obviously.
absolutely not. It didn't taste anything like it either. The little like balls that are there, I guess they're kind of like a marshmallow, I guess. But if you mix like a marshmallow with a potato, which those little balls are actually made out of potatoes, but it has like a different texture to it. And then there's like ice that's mixed with it, and then there's this weird gel that kind of tastes like I guess root beer, but like really, really stale root beer. Like it wasn't good at all. But it's supposed to be really, really good for your skin, and they're really, really into health.
Wow.
So yeah, I tried
I see the
it.
stuff in the spoon up there, and that just looks really slimy.
Yeah, it wasn't very good at all. I didn't have very much of it.
Here's another food picture that I want to try to get to. What did you call that?
Lychee.
Oh, look at that spider.
Yeah, and I woke up to that too. I woke up and I stretched, and then there was a spider right next to my face.
When I opened up,
What kind was it?
when I
Did it
opened
bite
up her
you?
email, there that spider was,
Did
and
it
it
bite
actually
you?
scared me. I'm like,
Did it
that's
bite
not
you?
funny at all. I don't think it bit her. She's still alive.
Was it poisonous?
Clues.
How's that an Oreo cookie?
Yeah, that was an Oreo. That was one of the games that we played. I played this one.
With Ann, pay attention to that, wherever you are. What's the chances this is gonna be like, there, these are the fruits I was talking about.
Yeah, that's lychee.
Are those like spikes on that?
Yeah,
Don't
but
eat
they're-
the outside
it's
though.
not. It doesn't hurt at all. Like it's really, really soft, and it's you have to peel it, and then on the inside it's this. It's kind of jelly, but it's more solid than that still. And then there's like a pit in the middle of it that you have to spit out at the end.
You eat that with rice too, or?
No, absolutely not.
Kind of like a skinned grape.
Yeah, kind of like that.
All right, now I'm gonna ask you some tougher questions.
Tougher question.
What's a popular kid's name in China? Like we have a bunch of Joshes and Johns.
Well,
And Rachel's.
we were really bad at saying their names. And
We can
so,
understand that.
right away when we got there, one of the first things that we did when we met our kid was we gave them an English name if they were old enough to like understand that we were gonna call them something different. My girl's name from the first week was Loka, and then when they gave me a Chinese name, they said Uloka. So
Loca?
yeah, because of the B, I guess. So I mean, Loka, I heard that a few times. So I would say that was a common one for a girl.
We can make it up. That's fine.
And then yeah, for boy names, I actually didn't even learn any of the boys' names because they were so hard to say. And so we would call him, like, one of the guys we call him Sugar.
Sugar?
Just 'cause that's easy for us to say. And so
Yum.
whatever we could come
Yum.
up with.
And that cute.
Isn't that kind of weird that? Okay, what are two really cool things you learned about the country?
They ride a lot of bikes. That was one thing that was very noticeable for sure. Anytime that you were in the city, there were a ton of bikes, like, and like motorcycles, kind of like a mixture of the two. I don't know how to
Like mopeds?
Yeah, like everybody had a moped. Everybody did. And then too, a thing about the culture was that they were very touchy. Like they always liked to give hugs, and they always liked to put their arm around you, and they always liked to hold hands and just hook arms. And it's not like a weird thing at all. It's just what everybody does, and it's super normal.
Say, we're used to that personal bubble.
Yeah, so it was really, they warned us about that, so we
You
were
know about the
kind
bubble.
of prepared.
Wow.
And it doesn't matter if it's a girl or a guy or whatever, guys are just as touchy as the girls.
So what made you want to go to China or any missions trip?
Well, I mean, it sounded like a really cool idea just to get out of Minnesota, just to see what else is around. I had a lot of friends that were going too, and it sounded like such a cool idea to be able to like reach down to like the people that are just like so sad with life, and just like I don't know how to word it exactly, but just the people that are really kind of rock bottom, and they don't have anybody that's reaching out to them. And so I just thought it sounded like a really cool idea to be able to like impact a little kid like that.
Now I'm going to ask a couple of harder questions.
Even harder.
More of the bigger kids will appreciate these questions. The adults probably will too. But when I was your age, Bibles were illegal in China. You had to have special permission to bring a Bible in. They counted the Bibles going in. They counted the Bibles going out. If you were short, you were in trouble. Is that the same culture there? I have heard that they've opened up a lot more now.
Yeah, they're more open to it. It wasn't a good idea to like stack a bunch of Bibles in your bag, because if they saw it, then they would probably start asking some questions. But it's legal to have a Bible, but if you're going to buy a Bible while you're there, you have to go to a church, and you have to like be a member, and you have to buy it from the church. It can't be anything that's like secretive at all, or outside of that like organized religion kind of way. But you're as a foreigner, they expect a lot of people to have a religion or to be a Christian, so they were okay with it as long as you weren't really sharing it with anybody for the most part. You kind of kept it to yourself.
So did you do church when you were there?
Yeah.
How did they have church buildings, or were you just meeting out in the open?
Well, they have church buildings, but we didn't go into them at all. We passed by them and just kind of like looked in, but we had our own thing with the foreigners that were there. And so in the morning we would meet together and we would talk about just our day, or at the end of the day too, we would kind of have like a Devo time. But on Sunday too, we had to kind of go through the woods and like make a secretive little route that we had church and a worship time with just the foreigners. And I don't know, sometimes we were really secretive about it, and other times we were just like really open about it. So I wasn't really in charge of when that kind of stuff happened, so I don't know what the
You
exact
just kind
rules
of
are.
followed what they told you
Yeah, I
to
just
do.
went with it.
Probably the best idea.
Yeah.
Did you learn any words in Chinese?
I did, and I forgot so much of them since then because I obviously don't speak that much Chinese. Boo was no, or boo ku was don't cry.
Okay, I was gonna say which boo, because like you're scaring someone, you jump on boo, or are you talking?
Like you would say boo, like it sounds
Okay.
like you're scaring somebody, but they're not gonna understand like that, obviously. There was duebachi, so that was excuse me, like if I bumped somebody when we're on the bus, which basically was gonna happen every time because it was so crowded.
Say that again.
Well, or no, it was duebachi. Duebachi, yeah. Or if somebody bumped into you and said duebachi, you would say meishu, which is it's okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Any questions from the kids? Teresa.
Why did you go to China?
Ask that question already. No, go ahead.
Got
Because
another one.
do you want to ask the other one?
Did you play in a movie?
No.
Well, because I thought you were from Casper.
I get that all the time. No, that wasn't me actually.
Who was it?
Yeah, not her.
Do you have a twin sister?
All right, moving on. Killian.
Did you have like a translator, or did most of them over there speak English?
We did have a translator. So we had a family, and it consisted of the foreigner. So it would be me, and then I had one translator, and then I had one kid. And the three of us hung out the whole week. We would wake up at 8 o'clock and go have breakfast together, and then the kids would go to bed at 9 o'clock. And the whole time we would be together.
Now the family, were they Christians? Or were they like professionals?
The translators?
Yeah.
No, well, it was a lot of college students from China, and I would say, there were a few Christians because they had been to the camps before and met Jesus through the camps, but there were a lot of them that also didn't know very much about it. So.
Jameson, I'm scared to call on you, but let's do it. Jameson.
Have you seen wild cucumbers?
Wild cucumbers?
I've seen them.
I didn't. There was a lot of pomegranates though.
I have.
All right, Gavin.
How did you get there?
We flew. So
That means flew on an airplane.
we went from Minnesota down to Texas, and then we went to California, and then we went to Hong Kong, and then we went to Kunming. Yeah.
All right, Caleb.
Could they understand you if you speak language?
English? Did the general population understand some English? I mean,
Yeah.
like you walk around here, a lot of people can speak up to 10 in Spanish because of Sesame Street.
They know more English than we would know Spanish for sure. Just because just everywhere around the world, English is kind of the language to know. Which sounds really,
We're trendsetters.
yeah, I guess so. But
All right, let's go. Someone, Noah. You forgot? Adrian, no talking. Josh.
Where do you live?
I live in Blaine, so super close.
Leo.
Well, when did she fly on the airplane?
Back in July or June, I think.
July.
Rachel.
When did you, when you were in the woods, did you see a lot of fruit growing on like bushes?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Not really. There were pomegranates that were next to our motel or hotel.
But were there trees in woods like our trees in woods, or?
Well, it's subtropical there, so there were different plants. But it was still,
You could definitely tell you were in the woods, but you weren't
Yeah.
in Minnesota.
yeah.
Other Josh.
What was your favorite moment in the trip?
Oh my gosh.
Put your arm down. I already called you.
Well, there's a picture actually in here. It's
You describe. I don't mean to
Well, it
like
was
freak
me
you out,
and-
but I looked at them.
It was me and my girl for my first week in
Okay,
the
I
city.
know which one you're
I
talking
don't know
about.
yeah, that's not very descriptive really, but
Who's hanging upside down, by the way?
that's just one of the orphans.
So they have one of the orphans, you said?
Yeah, that's one of the orphans.
Yeah, so they have child abuse in China. That's good. In Minnesota, that's illegal, by the way.
Whoa.
I'm not going to tell you how I found out.
Tell me.
Now, this is a pretty little girl. What's her name?
That was Sean.
Sean?
What does that mean?
Okay, well, that's good.
Oh, yummy.
Maybe we're going the wrong way here.
Food. Oh my gosh.
Yep,
This
that
one?
one right there. So that was the first week, and it was the Friday. And Friday is the day where you had to say goodbye to your orphans, and there was a lot of tears, and we were crying and everything. And basically, once the kids had left, we had our time together where we kind of talked about how we felt about it. But then they basically, they're like, okay, well, we're going downtown, so wipe your tears and hop on the bus, basically. And so we were downtown, and we're kind of being shown around. This is where you're going to meet at this time, and here are the markets and everything. And all of a sudden, somebody runs up to me and hugs me around the waist. And I got really confused because why is a kid hugging me? And I looked down, and it's my orphan from the first week, who I thought I was never going to see ever again.
She saw you and ran for you.
Yeah, and she heard from one of the translators that there's a chance that we might go downtown after they left. And so she biked for an hour downtown and tried to find us, and it was, I don't know, I
Can you
didn't
fit that
feel
in
like
3
I
lines there?
deserved to be able to ever see her again. Just that was such a blessing.
Sean.
That one was Loka. Or her English name was Esther.
Oh,
Yeah, which she actually picked.
she picked that one?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I think I tried calling her Lily because I didn't know I had to give them English names. And then they asked me to name her, and I said Lily, I guess. And then she said she didn't like that name at all. And she said she wanted to be Esther from the Bible.
So
Which is really surprising.
she had some knowledge of the Bible.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Yes.
I wonder why that you cut their names.
Because, well, you should know because you're a twin sister and we keep goofing your two up.
You're triplets.
It's because their names are so hard to pronounce that they gave them.
Not triplets.
It's like giving you a nickname so you guys could understand better.
No. Triplets.
Josh. All right, I have just dropped my question. Landon.
Were you able to pick
Josh, be leader.
We did. The first week, we didn't really notice them that much, but the second week, a lot of the kids that came to the camp were kind of used to having to fend for themselves and kind of like gather so that they could eat. And so when they saw the pomegranates, they kind of took advantage of that at the hotel, and so we kind of joined them, I guess.
Do you like pomegranates?
They weren't quite ripe enough at that point, but some of them were okay.
My question, I'm going to supersede all these kids. I get to do that because I got the name badge. You don't.
Whoa.
You slept in this bed?
Yeah.
Why does it have that really cool net?
That thing? Well, if you look at the picture with the spider, that would probably.
Good point.
Yeah, that was.
Well
Yeah,
made.
it was kind of.
I never put those two together.
And there was a lot of mosquitoes too, so it was definitely necessary to have the net.
So how do you get into that? I mean, does it have zippers,
Yeah,
flaps?
there is a zipper.
Alright. I'm just guessing at where the spider is. There we go.
There. And that wasn't a big one really.
That was
Some of
not
them-
a big one?
Well, I think the biggest one that I saw was probably about the size of my nose or bigger. And I almost hit it, and it was really terrifying.
So that's on the outside of the net then?
Yeah.
Why was it terrifying?
I'm going to let two more kids ask a question that
That's actually
only
a
the kids that have not
scorpion.
asked a question yet first. Katie.
Why did you have to sleep in that bed? Was that the only bed the only type of bed which was in China?
Well, that was the only ones that we had. So
No Hiltons?
no, unfortunately, we were in a high-end hotel, which would have.
High-end hotel.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know, here, you get your money back, you woke up to that.
There were lots of cockroaches too.
How big were those cockroaches?
Cool. Some of them were smaller, so it was like just a little baby one, but then some of them would be like the size of somebody's toe. It was just.
All right, Nola.
But were they outside of the bed?
Estelle. Nola.
Did you have any friends?
She had a whole bunch.
Yeah,
You see
I had
that
a ton
last
of friends
picture?
there.
Look at this last picture. There's like half of China's right there.
Yeah.
Now, is this the missionary team?
Yeah, that was from the second.
Okay.
So kind of like the rice thing, you know, we kind of just assume that's the way. And in China, is there still like a shortage of girls? Is that whole
Oh, with
thing?
the orphans stuff? It's definitely gotten a lot better. And I actually did a little bit of research recently, and it's pretty even at this point. I mean, there's a few more girls, but the big issue now is that a lot of the orphans have disabilities, and so that's why they're being put up for adoption, because the parents don't want to have to take care of a kid that's gonna have like a lot of long-term challenges like that.
I was going to ask you, when you said orphans, we don't have very many orphanages left in the United States, if any. So I was kind of wondering, what brings a child to the orphanage? And a lot of it's because of medical reasons, or?
Yeah, a lot of it is just because they have disabilities, whether it's mental disabilities or physical disabilities. I mean, and too, a lot of the kids ended up at the camp because they weren't actually even orphans. Some of them they had been brought to the camp because a teacher had heard that there was some troubles at home, and so it gave them like a week or two to get away and experience a different kind of family.
Ollie.
Do they have a certain age where in China they are let go into society after being in the orphanage?
I think it's just 18, but I think at like 13 or so, you can't actually be adopted anymore. So it's it's kind of weird how that works. So if you reach that maximum age, like you're kind of stuck in the orphanage, and which I don't quite understand.
Do they train them then so they can be part of the workforce, or what did they do between 13 and 18 then?
I mean, it didn't sound like there was really that much
How much
help
older?
that they.
Kevin.
Did you, two questions, what was downtown like, and did you ride on any rickshaws and stuff? And the second question is, there's a lot of water around here, did you ride on any boats, or did you do any traveling that way, and what was that like?
Well, we did go downtown quite a bit on the weekends, and we went in like taxis for the most part, or there's taxis that are like legal taxis, and then sometimes we would go in kind of like secret taxis that, and it'd just be somebody with a van, basically. And as far as water, there's a lot of water around, but we didn't go on any boats or anything. The hotel was next to like a big body of water, so it was really cool to like walk next to it and kind of look at it like that. But it wasn't like we went on a boat or anything really.
How did you get invited to go to China, or how did you
Hear about it?
Yeah.
Well, there was the church that I was going to at the time was Meadow Creek, and they used to have an old intern who was bringing his new church and like the youth group over to China, and so he kind of got us connected. And his parents are actually the ones that run this particular camp, so he goes every single summer and he helps run the camps or gets hooked up with one of the translators, like I was.
How long were you there for?
2 weeks.
How did you pay for the trip?
I would say a third of it was from my paychecks. That was what it was at first, for sure. I was
That's pretty impressive.
I was really frustrated at first because I was praying about it a lot that, like, God, if you want me to go, you know, you need to provide, because I can't pay for, it was like $3,500. It's a lot. And so I didn't think that was realistic to be able to come up with every single penny that I needed for that. And at first I wasn't really sure about it, and I was kind of just putting my own money into it. But there was some crazy situations that, like, people gave me such huge amounts. Like at work, actually, somebody gave me like a $250 tip, complete stranger.
Wow.
And just gave me this huge tip for the trip. Yeah, I don't know, just weird stuff like that.
You ordered number one or something and just gave you...
Well, they
Wow.
they came through the drive-thru at first. It was him and his wife, and they had like maybe $5 worth of food and gave us. And then it started out with like just like a $5 tip, and then he like went around again and gave us like $20, and then he like I was just so surprised because you don't really get tips at a fast food
No,
restaurant.
you don't. You really don't.
Yeah, at all. And I was just like, thank you so much, and he was like, well, you don't need to worry about it. All you need to do is like make sure that you try to get to church next Sunday. And I was like, oh yeah, like for sure gonna be there, like the money that you give me, because we're gonna divide it up. So the money that I get, I'm gonna put straight to a mission trip to go to China. And then him and his wife got all excited, and they're like, oh, we're missionaries too. And they're like, here's $100 just for you. And so that day, I walked away with $150. And then he came back with his wife again the next week and just gave me $100 and drove away. I never saw him since. Probably should have asked his name, but I was just in shock, so.
Well, the point there is God really provided in some amazing and unique ways. Okay?
Do you plan on going on another missionary trip?
Yeah, I loved it so much, and I got the offer to try to go again, but it was really hard to try to get the funds, and I didn't really feel like it was, I don't know, the right time to just start like sending the same letters back to like the same people and everything. So I would for sure go on another mission trip, but it would probably be something different too, just to get a different experience. I loved it. It was super, super cool.
Oh, first thing we're going to do is we're going to say thank you. And now listen carefully.
How do you say thank you in China?
Xixia.
She made that up too. She doesn't. Now, here's something about China though, is in that particular part of China, do they have a different dialect? So sometimes it doesn't really translate if you went to the other part of China very well, right?
Yeah, well, they added, I can't remember what the word was exactly, but they would add this a weird word to a lot of the end of their sentences. And there would be, sometimes when the translators would kind of sit there and they would say, I don't even know what they're saying.
Well, if it was Canada, it was A. All right. Noah, you've been so patient, and that's so not like you, so I'm going to let you ask your last question. Go ahead.
Do you see pandas when you were in forest?
No, not at all. Just a lot of spiders.
If you did, you'd run.
No, I wouldn't.
Last question.
I would attack it.